What is the biggest betrayal you've experienced in your life? Before we start with the first story, please hit subscribe and ring the notification bell to stay updated with us. Story 1. My ex-wife is cheating on me. I didn't know she had an affair while we were engaged. A good friend of ours did, and neither of them told me. I didn't know she cheated on me a few times during our 16-year marriage either, until I caught her in her latest affair in October of 2005 and divorced her. I found out about her other affairs during the divorce. We had no marriage. She was cheating while we were engaged. She knew our marriage was doomed before we took our so-called wedding vows. She was never all on our team like I was. My entire marriage was a lie. Story 2. My mom, whom I was insanely close to all my life, called me a slut when I got S-side at 14 years old. Edit. For anyone wondering what my relationship was like with my mother after the fact, every time we were in a room together, it felt like I was walking on eggshells. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife, but that was years ago. My mother passed away in 2022 during my senior year of high school. I'm now 20 years old and I live 1,800 miles away from home with my fiancé and couldn't be happier. Story 3. I made a new friend who seemed to really like me and was really nice and funny, since I felt like my other friends were slowly getting toxic. I was still friends with my old friends, but I was trying to distance myself from them. Then an incident happened which basically meant I lost trust in my old friends, and my new friend told me to ditch them. Since my new friend seemed so great and trustworthy, I did. This meant that pretty much my only friend was with me all the time. A week later, my new friend ditched me as well, which left me with nobody. I later found out that my old friends were actually friends with the new friend, and told the new friend to do this exact plan of me ditching the old friends and then the new friend ditching me. Great. Story 4. My friend, who I've known since we were 11, who claims I am a sister to her, uninvited me from her wedding. I was her maid of honor after my mom died because it stressed her out, thinking about how sad you'll be seeing me with my mom at my wedding when yours is dead. She told me through a text. This just happened to be moments after I ordered her $300 wedding gift off her registry and days after my newborn was released from a 2-week stay at the intensive care unit. I just pulled the covers over my head and cried. Story 5. This sounds pretty lame, but when my dad gave me $60 when I was 7 or 8 for my birthday, I felt really rich at the time because I never grew up with an allowance and barely received gifts. I wanted to buy a $30 video game and keep the rest, but it was rated M. My dad didn't give a what I played, so he had to buy it for me. When he did, he poked the $30 and I asked for it back. He told me in the most stern voice, "You got your gift with the money I gave you. I take back the rest if you don't use." I'm 35 now and still recall this like it was recent. It struck me so much how over I felt from my own dad. He also died over 10 years ago and didn't leave anything for us. I totally expected it. Story 6. After dedicating my life to figure skating and my coach, she abandoned me during the lowest time of my life. She watched and encouraged me to destroy myself for years. Then when my body started to literally break down and fall apart, she left. She told me I didn't want it bad enough, like I hadn't neglected every other aspect of my life to dedicate myself completely to becoming the best in the world. I wasn't even close. Then watching her walk out on me so easily, like she didn't practically raise me all because I couldn't perform anymore. That was betrayal. Story 7. Being told my whole childhood that if I kept my head down, did well in school, and got a good job, that I'd have a nice, comfortable middle-class life with a modest 4-bedroom house and a car, spouse and kids. Well, I have a law degree, work as an experienced trial attorney, and my wife works, and we still barely scrape by. It was all a lie. They move the rungs of the ladder as you're climbing it. Story 8. It's partly my own fault. My ex-wife was a serial cheater. I kept forgiving her because we had kids together. After 23 years of marriage and 5 kids, she walked out completely and moved in with a deadbeat loser. I raised the kids myself. The biggest betrayal wasn't her leaving me, it was her taking little to no interest in the life of her kids. My daughters were in high school and my 2 youngest boys were like 7 and 9. They needed a mother. Story 9. My last boss was acting all friendly and asking questions about my life outside of work. I wouldn't give him anything and would answer very vaguely or boringly because I was annoyed by his constant asking. He even asked me directly if I smoke weed and said, "It's okay, you are not gonna get in trouble," but I still said, "No, I don't." 4 weeks later, I got unfairly fired by straight up lies. He was trying to get dirt and couldn't find any, so he made up. Never trust your boss. Story 10. An older relative of my husband's asked if we could hire his granddaughter for the summer since she had just graduated high school and needed money for college. We owned a farm together, so there is always something to do. I said, yes, of course, we can find her something. 2 months later, I figured out my husband was having an affair with her. She was barely 19. He was 38. We have kids together. So now I'm divorced because I left my husband to seduce his teenage cousin. Cherry on top, his Catholic family pressed me for months to forgive and not leave. 2 years later, and I still can't believe it. No good deed goes unpunished. Story 11. My mom is crazy. I think she has a borderline personality and refuses help. I lived with my grandparents growing up and helped them my entire life, both financially and emotionally. 6 weeks before my grandpa died, he kept asking for my mom. She went 10 years without speaking to her parents over something trivial. I called her work and told her she had to come see him. I guess she heard the desperation or anger in my voice and actually did. He passed away from kidney failure on March 30th, 2019 in hospice. I wasn't there to witness it, but it broke my heart. My friends began to text me, "You need to go to FB." I was like, what the f is going on? My mom put as her FB status that I had my grandfather. She felt the care facility I put him in wasn't sufficient enough, and that caused his death. Story 12. Mine is not romantic. My best friend was more like my brother. Seriously, I had framed pictures of him in the house. Best friend since childhood. He was there at my children's births and was going to be the godfather should something happen to my husband and I. We worked together, all of it. I can't articulate how close we all were. He got a girlfriend and cut us out pretty immediately. He just abandoned us and completely bailed on us, completely ceased contact. My children cried and mourned him, asking what they did wrong. He also abandoned literally every other person in his life, including his family members, so it was not isolated to us. We aren't in contact, but last I knew she had pretty much destroyed his life. He lost his mortgage and has nothing for himself. He's not even allowed to play video games or go to concerts or anything at all. Is it an abusive relationship? Maybe, but at some point he made a choice. And it was so quick, man. He threw away our relationship over a girl he didn't even know for a month. I would have never seen this coming in a million years. It kind of flipped my view of people permanently. I feel so betrayed. Story 13. I was raised in a super religious, very controlling evangelical cult-like church. My toys were burned in a bonfire because they could bring demons into the home. I was not allowed to dance or listen to secular music because it can cause immoral behavior. Drinking, smoking, drugs obviously was a no-no. Dating was not allowed because obviously purity was key. I had to stay home or sit in the school library during Halloween parties. Everything centered around perfect behavior, manners, morals, religion, and staying away from worldly influences. And then my mom voted for Trump. Twice. He embodies everything they tried to shelter me from and told was bad, and destroyed my childhood and stunted my social development over, and they chose him as their leader. Story 14. When I was 15/16, an old best friend of mine, she was 18, hit me up and said she was going to be in town and wanted to hang out. She was always very jealous of me, and I was dating a guy she had a crush on in the past, but I didn't know this when I got with him. But she didn't seem to really care anyways. Well, anyways, she has her 2 guy friends who are well in their 20s drive her to pick me up from his house one day, and basically the whole time they humiliated me, controlled me, and one even almost me. They pressured me into playing this stupid game where if you are last to punch the roof of the car, you had to take a piece of clothing off. My friend was with me in the back seat and she was trying to physically take my clothes off of me when I lost. I ended up with no bra or shirt, and they wouldn't let me put my clothes on. They took my clothes and hid it up front. Here I am, a f***ing minor, sitting in the car with a bunch of adults with my b***s out, and they were commenting on my body parts the whole time. Later that day, we ended up at a hotel that I paid for to drink and smoke. Once we got there, they took my phone from me and hid it, and said it was because they didn't want my boyfriend to distract me. Well, soon after we got there, one of the guys leaves for a bit, and it was just me, my friend, and her old guy friend. He had to be at least 25. He was over 6 feet tall and was very heavy set. My friend is doing who knows what on her laptop at the top of the bed, and this guy forces me on the bed and climbs on top of me and pins my arms down. He starts kissing me and pulling my clothes off, and I'm telling him to stop and squirming around, but he's so big I couldn't move an inch. He told me I had to play by the rules and no one had to know. Then the other guy knocked on the door, and thankfully he stopped. I had to beg and plead with them to give my phone back so I could call my mom. It was actually my boyfriend, and I made up some excuse I can't even remember. He came and picked me up, and I told him what they did to me, and the only thing he seemed truly upset about was the fact that I smoked weed. Yeah, he turned out to be a pause too. Still to this day, I think she planned all of this with her friends. Our friendship was never perfect, but it was mostly because she was insecure about her looks and was always jealous of me. Anytime I dated a guy, she would treat me like and call me a etc. I wish I did something about it, but I was too scared to tell people that I was in a hotel with grown men drinking alcohol and smoking weed. So the only person who knew was my BF at the time, who really didn't do about it either. Story 15. New Year's Eve 2016. My girlfriend, brother and I were hanging out, getting ready to host a party. We went out and got food and alcohol. While we were waiting for people to arrive, I decided to lounge for a bit on these hammocks that were in the courtyard of my apartment building. Both of them followed me out. There were 2 oversized hammocks, so I expected my GF to get in mine with me. Nope, she got into my brother's hammock with him. Obviously, that annoyed me a bit, especially considering that she didn't know him very well. I was not cool with that. Anyway, I brushed it off and decided that I'd talk to her about it after the party. Our friends showed up. We drank and hung out. Fast forward to the end of the party, and it was getting late, so our friends started going home. It was just me, my brother, and my girlfriend still in my apartment. All of a sudden, I started to feel really tired and loopy, which was weird because I only had a couple drinks. I told my girlfriend that I'm going to lay down because I didn't feel too good. I remember my GF telling me that she was going to have another drink and then come to bed. I stumbled to my room and fell asleep for a while, not too certain for how long, but definitely under an hour. I woke up extremely groggy, room spinning. I was curious where my GF was, so I went out into the living room and she's on my brother's lap making out with him. I told them both to get out of my apartment, and I passed out in my bedroom. It wasn't until later that I connected the dots. The first time I brought my GF home to my place, I passed out in a similar way, after only a couple drinks. I used to joke around with her about how she roofied me on our first date. She of course didn't find it funny. After that incident, I'm fairly certain that she drugged me and tried to sleep with my brother. Anyway, I broke up with her when I woke up the next morning, and I haven't talked to my brother in years. My brother grew up together. We were only 1 year apart, completely inseparable up until that point. Still haunts me a little to this day. Alright folks, that's a wrap. If you like more of this, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. You can also share your thoughts in the comment below. I'll see you in the next video.